episode 107 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Folks, we're broke and we need your money. We're on patreon.com. That's Patreon, Patreon.com. You could donate as sponsor. Donate is kind of a weird word. Sponsor is a good word because you're literally sponsoring us and becoming one of the Chew crew for as little as $1 a month. And we have different types of rewards, anywhere from a shout out all the way to you come on the podcast with us and kind of run with it, have your own topics and all that. T-shirts, hats, all kinds of good stuff. But that is www.patreon.com/chew on this podcast.
And in case you haven't heard the few descriptions we've given of why we keep talking about this place called Wawa, it's a gas station that now it's a gas station, but it's also like a 7-Eleven type, but better because they make fresh sandwiches. They have fresh food there. It's only in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, parts of New York, and I think in Florida. So I was from New Jersey. BJ came out to visit one time. Mm-hmm. He had it. He realizes how good these sandwiches are. They're awesome, perfectly priced. Dollar coffees, great coffee, way better than the overpriced Starbucks. So the hashtag that's been going on for 6 or 7 months now,
long time,
is it's hashtag West Coast Wawa, trying to get somebody at Wawa to pick up on this hashtag and say, why are these two idiots constantly putting this hashtag up? And hopefully they come out here to California. So hashtag West Coast Wawa. And that brings us to this episode, which we will be reviewing a sequel from a couple years ago, Bad Moms Christmas. No, it's it's Thor Ragnarok. And this movie, let's just get the boring stuff out of the way, made a shit ton of money for Marvel.
Yeah.
A ton of money for Marvel.
Yeah.
120 million is not the final tally, but that's the projected amount for the weekend. It killed over in China. And it is kicking the ass of any movie in the series for Thor.
Yeah. In 1 week, it's made almost as much money as the first Thor worldwide.
In the entire run.
Yeah.
Like 400 something million so far total. And right now the Rotten Tomatoes rating is at 93%, but I was up in the high 90s for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's got about 250 something reviews in, so a very highly rated movie. And I'll just go ahead and give my initial reaction first. Okay. I wasn't really a big fan. The fears that I had about this movie going in, about hearing that it was going to be improv, a lot of lines were improv, and they just kind of went with it, and it kind of started with that viral video of Thor having that roommate, a little bit started with that, the transformation from Thor being the serious, thunder of God of thunder, to what he is in Thor Ragnarok. So it's kind of been going a little bit virally, and then you finally see it here in Thor, and that was my worry, that it just didn't fit the character right, it didn't fit the tone of the movie, and I was really worried about it. And I think that's the same things that people had a problem with in Ghostbusters too, the remake, that like half of it was improv, and it didn't really need that to be, and I felt like the same thing here. So that's my initial reaction. I'll definitely go into way more details after this, but my initial reaction was I wasn't a big fan.
I didn't get it. I went into it, thinking kind of roughly the same thing. I mean, the reviews were so high, but I thought, well, maybe that's because it's such a tonal change and it's like a shock to the system. For certain, it was a shock to my system, but for everyone else, maybe they just had a good time, like, going into Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that, which this type of tone and all that works. They went a completely different way with this one. And in certain aspects, I get it. Like, I was looking forward to having a little more lighthearted fun with Thor because he's been more of the the serious tonal movies.
Even more serious than Captain America, which is hard to do.
Yeah, and I don't know. They swung for the fences. I'll give them that. but there was a lot of times where I rolled my eyes and I was like, really? Like that is a terrible joke, or that
It went too long.
it went too long. So so my initial reaction too was I mean this isn't Iron Man 2 and 3 bad,
No.
but
No.
I definitely I just didn't get it. I was like, why did they do this? Because there's a lot of serious shit going on in this movie,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
should
And
be.
you could you can kind of pinpoint exactly when the ice was going to break from the scene. You never get to actually realize the dire situation going on in this movie. And that's a few plot problems that I had with this movie too. And this is really interesting too, because this is so high on Rotten Tomatoes that I was like, all right, it's got to be awesome again, you know, because I had a really good time at Guardians 2, even though I didn't think it was that as good as the first one. But at the same time, you know, with the 93% rating, they're, you know, again, they're an aggregated review site,
Hmm.
so they're not nobody's paying for these reviews, so that's a pretty big deal when 93% of the reviews coming in, about 260 something reviews coming in, and I'm thinking that's way too high.
Way
Uh,
too high.
um, here's the other thing too. I don't hate this movie because the there are the story overall is actually pretty good. There are, like, I have major plot problems with it coming right off the bat from the movie, from the very beginning of the movie, but the overall story I really enjoyed. I loved the Ragnar. I loved Kate Blanchett in this.
Hmm.
Absolutely loved her in this. I thought she was perfect. She looked really good in that outfit. I never ever thought of Kate Blanchett that way,
Yeah,
but
me neither.
she looked
Pretty
really good.
badass.
Yeah, and she did a phenomenal job as Hela. And individually, I really liked every person in this movie. I even liked Chris Hemsworth in this movie. The problem I had was those improv lines, and it was really annoying right from the start. So, like always, spoilers. Don't be listening to this if you haven't seen the movie. Right from the start, where he's hanging,
Hmm.
when he drops down, and the guy is trying to tell you, like, basically the overarch of what Ragnarok is, and I've been trying to figure out what their version of Ragnarok has been or is going to be versus what was in the comic books.
Right.
So here's this important part of telling you what the MCU Ragnarok is, and they keep fucking throwing in that joke where he keeps spinning around on the chain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, that's a fuck. That's like that's such a. It took me out of the seriousness of the, and it set the tone. Like, you know how in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, when Peter puts on those, well, between the mother dying and then you get to when he puts the headphones on and he starts dancing.
Yeah.
Those two things told you exactly what this movie was going to be, right? And it worked. You got the emotional part, and then you got, like, the lighthearted part of it. For some reason, it just worked because Peter Quill's like that.
Hmm.
The lightheartedness in here, where in most some serious Marvel movies like Civil War and things like, there's certain things that break the ice, you know, like a Tony Stark thing or something like that, and something, you know, the scene where Captain America kisses, you know, Agent whatever
Hmm.
39 or whatever for
Hmm.
the first time, and you know, Bucky and what's his face are sitting in the car smiling. Those are, like,
Yeah.
cool things to break the ice.
Yeah.
But the tone of it, like, you would think a movie about your entire planet being destroyed, you wouldn't have this much comedy in it.
They
Yes,
they
there are jokes in here that work.
they melted the ice.
Yeah,
It
and
never came back.
yeah, like, there are parts in it that really work at certain parts. There's a couple times where I laughed out loud, but the parts that really bugged me were the scenes where they're trying to do something serious, or something, a bombshell just dropped, and then something like, and then they throw in a joke 5 seconds later, and you can't sit with that emotion long enough to actually have that process with you. You know, because there were so many jokes leading up to Odin's death.
Yeah,
When he died,
his
I was
dad
like, it
died.
was like I didn't really care.
Yeah, yeah, that
You
was
know,
one of
because
my
immediately
problems.
after that, Hela shows up. You know, Hela shows up, and then even in that fucking scene alone, there's jokes. You know, and I expect it from Loki, but I don't expect it from Thor in those serious moments. And I wish they cut back a little bit, and that's my opinion of it. A lot of people were laughing and really enjoyed it in the theater. I didn't. It was kind of like watching. For me, it felt weird for the first time watching a Marvel movie where I didn't laugh with the people. I haven't felt like that since I saw Devastator's Balls on IMAX, for where people were laughing at that scene. I'm like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
And it felt really weird that this was a Marvel movie, and I had that feeling.
it was that's exactly how I felt the entire time. Like my kids were laughing throughout the whole movie. They thought it was great. But like I was really, I mean, maybe I was looking at it too harshly, but at the same time it's like I've been with that character for 10 years now, and like, or maybe a little less. And it got to this one, and it's like in the other movies, he sprinkled humor in it, and it worked perfectly. And then in this one, it's like one long joke through the whole thing, and I'm like, there was just no. It was like watching Naked Gun, but without the the wackiness. But it was like watching
Right.
Naked, where it's like a mile a minute. Like there's jokes a mile a minute, and if you blink, you miss something joke wise. And that's not what this should have been. I mean, some of the humor worked really, really well, but majority of it, especially God, I love Jeff Goldblum so much, and I wanted
Right.
to kick his teeth in. I was like, oh my
You know
God,
why? You know why he didn't work
God,
is because everybody had one-liners in this movie. And then you get to Jeff Goldblum's character, right? And it's overkill because that's the
yeah,
next level that he had to take it to.
yeah,
I guarantee you, if it wasn't like 50 jokes from Thor before the opening credits even showed Thor Ragnarok, he had already told like 10 jokes or 12 jokes already before the opening credits.
right.
That's kind of ridiculous in a movie like this, where his home planet's supposed to like fucking be destroyed. And I really honestly I liked Jeff Goldblum a lot in this movie. Probably better than you, but I think the reason why you don't like it is because by the time you got to the Grandmaster, you had already heard like 50 jokes
Yeah,
or 50 or like 50 jokes or gags, and then you get to him, you're like, okay, he's supposed to be funny too, but why is everybody's like, you always get that one character that's supposed to be the funny person, right? And everybody else is trying to be serious. That's why Gamora and Peter Quill work really well
right.
together, right? So but unfortunately when you get to the Grandmaster, the main character Thor, who you know doesn't like, one of my favorite lines is he's adopted from the Avengers when he
Right,
says that about Loki.
right.
And that's not really a joke. It's like it's just a perfect like quip to say, and it's really funny. And I would have preferred jokes like that from Thor, where everybody else would have more lines, because or more joke lines where he's just kind of playing off everybody and he's just trying to get away from it. And so basically like Thor's like mile a minute jokes take away from the Grandmaster. That's my opinion anyway.
No, it's
Like,
that's totally it. And by the time you get to the Grandmaster, yeah, he has really long pauses, and really, and it would have worked if the rest of the movie wasn't so silly. I mean, you're right.
right.
He's supposed to be this over the top character, which he played it probably the way he should have played it. But it's like, oh my God, it's like, is there anybody in this fucking movie that's serious?
Yeah.
And you had a great villain. You had Kate Blanchett as I mean, probably one of the best MCU villains, and she's kind of wasted in this movie because they're telling all these jokes. It's like it's not funny when they do 50 funny things in a row. It's like, man, like usually usually it's the complete opposite. It's all serious, 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 and then there's a little joke here and there. Which,
Right.
but it was the complete opposite. It was like they made a comedy, and even like
That Thor was in.
it was a comedy that Thor was in, and even like somebody like Banner, who's supposed to be this like logical scientist, whatever. Even he's reduced to like this funny sidekick, whatever. And the other thing that so I don't know, I'm kind of going away from that, but the other thing that really bugged me was they did okay. So Marvel usually shows you something in a trailer that gets you really excited, and one of the things was oh, it's my friend, I know him from work, and it's Hulk, pops out of the thing. I'm kind of mad now that they showed that, because that was a really cool kind of. I wish they would have hid Hulk from this movie completely. I didn't want to
Yeah.
know Hulk was in it. It would have been such a cool thing for him to pop out and me being all surprised. Number one. Number two, I have never seen a trailer this with this much um, footage that was altered to make the the audience wonder different things. Like I
Right.
remember watching the trailer going, "Oh, cool." Then I'm watching the movie and I'm witnessing the things that were in the trailer, but they were completely altered. So I was like, "Oh, okay, so Thor lost an eye." All
Right,
right.
because you see him with the glowing eyes in that scene at the end
Right.
of the movie in the trailer, but when you see the close up, his eye's not all fucked up. They took away like all the redness from that right eye.
Yeah, they changed. I mean, there was a lot of things that were altered to kind of, I don't know, to mask what was really going on and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, like God, like they did a lot. They altered a lot in the trailer.
Yeah.
Um,
There are good things in this movie. Like there are, like I said, everybody is really good. Even Thor cracking jokes. I thought he did a really good job. I just didn't want my Thor to be the comic relief.
yeah.
You know, everybody was the
Well,
comic relief.
here's the thing. It's like we're not. It sounds like we're really shitting on this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still better than most things out there. I think because this is what the 17th or 18th movie now.
Yeah.
We expect a certain level of
Well, of course, we also
you know
expected it from the Rotten Tomatoes rating as well.
yeah
I mean, at the time that we went to go see this movie, I think it was like 96,
yeah
97%,
it was high yeah
which is the best rated reviewed Marvel movie. It was higher than Iron Man, the first one.
yeah
And Iron Man actually is a really good example of what I expect from Thor. As se- there's serious parts in that movie, and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark lets it breathe.
hmm
He doesn't crack 50 jokes. He just says things a certain way without actually cracking a joke. You know, when he's talking to Pepper, there's jokes there. But when he's in that cave scene trying to survive, it's not really any jokes. You know, because it lets you breathe and lets you feel. You know, he's already going to get out because you've already seen it.
right
But but you're still there with him because the severity of the scene and the situation that he's in, the director John Favreau lets you breathe in that scene. Like it lets you sit and like have that palate in your emotion saying like fuck, this is really bad for Tony, you know.
hmm
And when again the in the beginning of the movie when he's trying to tell you what Ragnarok is and how fucking serious it is, basically your entire planet is going to die. There's that spinning on the fucking chain joke
right
that keeps breaking that emotion that you have for how serious this issue is, you know. And there's another scene where you see Valkyrie's past, right? You see it where that gorgeous shot, which I loved in the trailer and it looked even better on IMAX, was where she's coming out of the skies, going against Hela,
oh God that
and you
was
got that panda
gorgeous yeah
on IMAX, dude. It was fucking sick, right? And then right after that scene, there's like a joke right after that. I'm like, motherfucker. Like you just showed this gorgeous shot, right? Yes, it's all CG, whatever. I don't care. It was fucking gorgeous, right? And you go for that really emotional scene, and then right then and there's a joke right after that. It doesn't get to sit with you of like why this woman is there, you know, in that position that she's in. You
Yeah,
know,
it's really weird because usually we're everyone most people are blasting MCU or the movies with the fact that the villains aren't as strong as people had hoped. And now the one time where you actually had a really good villain and you had they had a good story. They really
yeah.
had a good story there. I didn't even mind that Hela was like a long lost sister. I was like, "Oh shit." Like I I enjoyed all that, but I couldn't,
Yeah.
like you said, I didn't have enough time to process it before somebody would say some fucking, poopy joke or something that was completely out of place. And I'm just like, why fuck?
I mean, they jumped the shark when they had a dick joke in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm like, fuck,
Did Michael
does
Bay write
anybody not?
this?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm Thor is making a dick joke, kind of. And I see Hulk's ass. I'm like, this is fucking Michael Bay wrote this scene. I'm like, fuck me. So and he's trying to get, Hulk to help him, right? And like then there's that obviously that whole improv scene. Apparently, like Chris Hemsworth wrote the line or came up with the line. Oh, it's in my brain now when he closed his eyes,
Yeah.
which would have been for me anyway would have been a fucking ton funnier if he wasn't telling so many jokes up until that point.
Right.
Like that right there, breaking character and saying it's in my brain now would have like I would have died laughing because you weren't expecting it. But by that point in time, I was expecting a joke every time something fucking serious
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Like, oh, your dad's dead? Joke. Oh,
Oh,
there's no way you're gonna get off this planet. Joke.
that reminds me. Like, yeah, his dad dies. His merrymen, the people that he worked with, all fucking died.
Right.
You never
That's the other thing I
no
had a
emotion,
like.
nothing. They just get
Right. So
punked.
here's the other thing. Yeah, exactly. I was shocked, and again, there was a joke right after that because when those two guys got killed right away from Hela, I was like, oh fuck, my jaw was open because like they played a huge part in the other two movies, kind of,
Hmm.
and that's the other problem I had too is like the last time you saw Thor, Thor was he disappeared away to try. He went back to Asgard to try to find out what this whole his imagery was. Right.
Hmm.
Flash forward to now, you find out that this ghost is this I forget the name of this god or this monster or whatever, but he goes there, he tells you like he's been trying to find Ragnarok and all this. So like or find out what the whole deal with all this stuff is.
Right.
Why doesn't he have his people with him
I don't
in
know.
that situation? When he was like saying like, "Oh, I'm going to break out of these chains." I was like, "Oh, fuck, those guys are somewhere hidden in this room." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it never happened. And I was thinking like on top of that, you've been gone from like you went back to Asgard from Avengers, and then you never told anybody what you were doing. You just disappeared. Like you didn't even go see your father after you came back from Earth. Like wouldn't your father have asked, or you did see him, but like you never went and told anybody that you were going to be gone for a long time, and you didn't bring any of your army people with you.
Right. Where was Lady Sif? She disappeared too.
I don't know.
She
They
wasn't in the
explained
movie
it
at
in
all.
some article. They explained it in some article where she couldn't. They wanted her back, but she couldn't do it because she's on the blind spot, and it was literally overlapping by the time they released the schedule, the shooting schedule.
Even though the other two guys, like literally, dude from Chuck just gets punked like in 1 second.
Right.
It's
Well,
like
that
they
leaves Lady
couldn't put her
Sif
in there.
for something later.
I
She might.
guess.
I don't know. But that's kind of weird that you never see her either.
Yeah.
But it really was just logistics in the real world. Like in Thor's world, I don't know how they're going to explain that away. Where like, because he doesn't even ask about his people, his
No.
friends.
No.
When Thor comes back, he doesn't ask for anybody. Like, hey, where's Harry? I don't know the guy's name. I'm just going to call him
Yeah,
Harry.
there's just
But
no emotion. Like I wanted him
hey,
to
where's Bill?
yeah,
Like
I wanted him to be
there's no questions.
there was just it was one note. It's funny to say that, but literally the movie was one note. And it was just comedy throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, the funniest part about this whole thing is I actually enjoyed the story. Trying to take my mind out of like, all right, I'm gonna get a fucking joke here, fuck you, but just staying with the story itself. I thought it was a very interesting
It
story.
is. Yeah,
Again,
me too.
again, plot holes. Again, plot holes like Thor. Like, why is he out there by himself? Why doesn't he ask about where all his best warriors are? When he goes back. Right? He only talks to Heimdall.
Right.
That's it. Nobody else.
Who's in hiding.
Like he doesn't ask Heimdall like, hey, the best warriors on Asgard, gather them. And then Heimdall could be like, oh fuck, they were the first ones to die.
And then he'd be all upset. Yeah.
Right. And then there would be a joke. But
Yeah.
like but he doesn't ask like if your planet's gonna die, like wouldn't you ask to be like, hey, I know my dad's dead, but how are all my best friends? Because my mom died too, so I only have my friends. How are my friends that are really close to me and they're the best warriors on Asgard? Where are they? Not a single question, like they didn't exist.
Yeah.
So
I know. And then when Asgard blew up, I didn't really. You should have cared. Like I saw Superman, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and I cared about Krypton, and it was on screen for like 5 minutes. So
yeah, but there wasn't a joke there wasn't like 60 jokes in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's
like nobody was farting in that like sentencing scene.
No one's like Jarrell, dude, you're fucking fat.
Yeah, Terrell, your fly's open. Oh, I made you look.
Yeah. Oh, your dick's hanging out.
So it really took me out of like the movie. I did like the interaction between Thor and Hulk, but it was just too much.
Yeah. They had Hulk talking a lot. I was like, shit.
I didn't mind that. I didn't mind that at all. I just thought it was like that they made Hulk act like a big child at certain parts.
And then after all that, like he's like, "How did you get here?" And you're thinking, "Oh shit, like, yeah, how did he get there?" And he just goes Quinjet, and I'm like, "Well, wait, what does that mean? Like, the
Yeah, and then
Quinjet
they
can
show you
fly in
later.
space?"
Yeah, they showed you later that it was like he I guess he got like sucked up, like Valkyrie found her or found him and just like stole him.
Yeah, but like, how did the Quinjet get there from Earth? That makes no sense.
I don't know.
Yeah,
They don't really tell you.
no,
So
he just goes Quinjet, and you're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, okay,
thanks for the explanation, Hulk.
yeah." Yeah, it was.
There was a lot of lines in this movie that if they were not telling so many jokes would have worked a lot better. Really would have
So
worked
the
better.
things that I liked the warriors that he was stuck with. It was Korg, and then
Yep.
that knife,
But again, they
the
were
knife
supposed to
wielding
be a
dudes.
comic relief type people.
Yeah,
But then you have like three other peoples in the same scene telling jokes.
everybody's comic relief in this movie. Every
The
single
only one
fucking
that
person.
wasn't, I think the only person that wasn't was Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, she wasn't, and honestly, Thor shouldn't be like that. It's Loki. Loki's the one that's sarcastic
Right, he's
and
the god of
dickish.
mischief.
Yeah, exactly. And the Warriors, they didn't tell jokes for the sake of telling jokes. They were just funny because of the shit that they were saying. It was just
Yeah.
like the biggest laugh for me. One of the only laughs that I had is when he's like, "Why are you carrying that thing?" He's like, "Oh, I stepped on him and I killed him," and then and then he's like, "Then I just decided to pick him up and I haven't put him back down," and then the guy wakes up and he's like, "Oh shit, you're alive." I
Yeah.
fucking lost it. It was the funniest thing. He's like, "Oh, I stepped on him."
And he
Yeah.
just decided to carry him. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah, there's funny things like that, but like by that point in time you're like you're actually trying not to laugh anymore because or trying not to be so like, joke fucking worn out, because there's a joke even at the end.
yes. Oh,
So,
the other thing that didn't work for me was Doctor Strange. That was fucking weird. I didn't get that either.
well, that for because Doctor Strange was in or Thor was in Doctor Strange, they
Well,
had to figure out some way to
well, it was the same scene at
right,
the last credit
kind of,
scene,
yeah, the beginning and
but that whole interaction with the way they're talking felt so scripted. Didn't look natural. It was the one scene in the whole movie that actually didn't look natural at all. It was weird. Um,
it felt like Cumberbatch couldn't do that type of material.
Either that or it was like the first scene that he filmed as Doctor Strange or some shit. He didn't have the
He looked good though.
he
He
looked
looked
fucking
good.
great, and some of the
Yeah,
shit he was doing was cool. But again, it was all jokes. It was like
yeah.
he like the joke
It's like,
was
don't take my hair. I'm like, he's gonna just pull his strand of hair out right now.
yeah, and the joke was like every second they were teleporting all over the place looking for books, and he kept dropping his beer or whatever. I was like,
Right,
okay, you did this like 6-7 times in a row now.
right. It was because right before then you had the rope choke like 2 or 3 times, right?
Yeah,
And then now you're getting this overplayed teleportation joke over and over again too.
yeah.
I did laugh when he punked Loki a little bit because Loki's the one with all the magic
Mm-hmm.
and Doctor Strange just bitches him during it, which was pretty funny to
Yeah,
me.
that was pretty funny.
Um, but at the end, right after that, you're supposed to go and witness, Odin's death, and
Which is
just didn't.
really like poetic and all that stuff, but it just didn't work. I didn't feel any kind of emotion behind it at all.
Yeah, it felt on the same level, like still seeing Odin die because he's Anthony Hopkins has been with the series since the beginning. But still seeing Odin die was kind of emotional, but not like how it should have been. It felt like Dumbledore when he died in the movies.
Oh yeah.
How that was really not done well.
No, in the book,
Almost as
it was
bad
way
as
more.
Goblet of, yeah, almost as bad as the Goblet of Fire thing when he fucking attacks Harry.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Like
it's out
that's
of
not
character. Yeah.
right. No, but again, like I guess I'm complaining about it so much because we don't get to complain about Marvel movies a lot.
No.
Even Guardians of the Galaxy with the stupid ending that it had, I really enjoyed myself in that movie. Like it was fun. And I expect Guardians to be like that. And I don't mind a lighter Thor. But somebody needs to play the serious person. And the only time they were serious was when they were fighting, and that was it.
Yeah.
So any other time outside of them not fighting, They're just telling jokes left and right. So that's the part that bothers me the most is that if it was so out of place, it was too out of place for me.
There was a good
And
movie.
if
There was a good movie in there, man.
yeah, yeah. I will give. How do you say the director's name? I can't.
Watiti or
His first name.
Watiti is his last name. I don't
Um,
remember. I don't remember.
I think he did a really good job in the movie. There's a lot of visuals in this movie that kind of blew me away.
Yes.
That definitely the Valkyrie Hela scene that was
Oh
awesome.
my god,
That was
it was like a
unbelievable.
painting. I mean, it was
Yeah, I mean it
beautiful.
was gorgeous. Yeah, and I love that scene. It was all CG. I don't know if he was actually the one that envisioned that sequence, but if he did, great job. Um, there were certain scenes like I actually liked. Oh my god, I actually liked the end sequence. It didn't seem too over the top when they brought back that monster. I
Oh
thought
yeah.
it made sense, and I just remembered the fucking part where I rolled my eyes and the people around me couldn't stop laughing was when Thor comes back and um he sees the reenactment of Thor Dark World where Loki, they have a fake Loki is fucking Matt Damon.
Oh god, that was pretty funny.
It took me so fucking out of the movie. You were laughing
I,
at
I
that?
I laughed for a second, and then it just kept going and going, and then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is too over the top.
I
Because
saw Matt Damon in there and I was like, that's Matt Damon.
because it
That's not an Asgardian. That's fucking Matt
because
Damon.
it reminded me of the beginning of Goldmember with all the cast, like pretending to be
Oh,
characters.
yeah.
And so like I first saw him, I giggled out loud, and then it just kept going and going, and I was like, this is way over the top, man.
And then nobody in the audience recognizes Thor when
Yeah.
he's just like standing there in the audience.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, it's Thor." Nobody says a fucking word.
No, and also
People are actually looking at him like, "Who the fuck are you?"
and also, wouldn't you think that the people at that point, after 2 years of Loki being Odin, wouldn't they be like, Odin, why are you doing this? Because
Yeah.
like Odin used to be a hard ass. Now you're fucking just sitting here drinking beer and being being a weirdo.
And he's like fully playing up and they even got Anthony Hopkins to tell jokes, even though it's Loki doing it. But you would think Loki would have been a little bit more, not as a little bit more careful about it.
Even Anthony Hopkins telling jokes.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Fuck, man.
Yep. The other thing, I liked Valkyrie up to a certain point when all of a sudden she just decided to change sides, like immediately. I think that
Yeah, that was a quick
it was a
turn.
really quick transition. And
I would have liked for her to do it because she had no other choice.
right,
Like write it in a way where she had to do it,
back up against, yeah,
and then she comes around and realizes that she really needs to be in this fight.
yes,
That would have fit her character a lot better for me anyway.
yeah, I think so too.
But again, like everybody in this individually is really even Hemsworth, who he's just given the material or told what to do basically to improv these lines or go for an improv session right here. But he does a really good job doing it. It just felt really out of fucking place. I
Yeah,
felt like that viral video of him having a roommate, it didn't stop when he was telling
yeah,
jokes.
yeah.
It was just the same
And that's
Thor telling
and that's
jokes.
the thing. Thor telling jokes sporadically, just here and there, works, but him telling jokes throughout the whole thing doesn't work. And he's supposed
No.
to be kind of, I mean, not, I mean, Captain America is the straight man, but Thor is like the he's supposed to be.
He's like a Shakespearean serious person,
Yeah,
basically.
he is. With every now and then he says something that's
Like
rather
the line
rather
in the
funny.
Avengers.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it works there because he's not doing that throughout the movie. He breaks that ice of his character, and it's really good when they do that. Like that one scene where in Batman Returns we've talked about it, where when Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne, when Michael Keaton is Bruce Wayne, he's Bruce Wayne, right?
Hmm.
But then in the Batsuit, he's always serious. And there's that great scene in Batman Returns where the button's not working. He's about to drive through that really thin
Oh
alleyway,
yeah,
and he breaks
he
he breaks
breaks.
the Batman thing. He's like, all right, now I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
Like that fucking line worked really well for me because as Batman, you knew he was going to be serious. He wasn't telling so many jokes.
Right.
And again, there's lines in this movie. I paid close attention to it just to try to not ignore it, but I wanted to see what else I didn't like about it. there's lines in this movie that are really funny, but they were not funny anymore to me because I was expecting it every five
It's
seconds
like
now.
oversaturation, essentially. It's
Exactly.
like you
And
got
this
desensitized.
right. But again, what's crazy about this movie is that there's a really good story in there.
Yeah, it's
There's
good.
not major plot
It's
holes, but
funny.
there are plot
We're
holes.
disappointed in the completely opposite way of like we're probably going to be disappointed of Justice League. It's like, but expected, you know. Like you don't like if Batman were to tell 100 jokes in a movie, you'd have been like,
Which he
this.
probably will, judging by the fucking trailer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the one where he's like, what's your superpower?" And he's like, "I'm rich." I giggled. I was like, that's pretty cool." I'm like, but then maybe there's like 50 other jokes besides that, or like, why didn't they just leave that out of the trailer and put that in the
Like
movie?
there's that scene there's that other scene, the counter, that really cool line that he says that I'm rich. But before that, you had already ruined that scene by showing a scene where Bruce Wayne was telling another joke, where
Right.
he's fucking recruiting the Flash as Bruce Wayne, which is fucking retarded in itself. And the Flash is like, I'll join your group, and Batman and Bruce Wayne's like, you will, like all surprised and shit.
Yeah.
Like,
That.
okay,
No, you wouldn't be all surprised. You'd be like, "Good, let's go." You wouldn't be
yeah,
like all.
we got work to do.
Yeah. So, oh my lord, I'm cringing
Anyway,
so hard. Yeah.
back to Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
There's
So
every individual performance in this movie is really well done, but again, the Grandmaster scenes, every single one of his scenes, he would have stole the entire movie for me had I not listened to 60 jokes before I saw him.
yeah, totally. And Jeff Goldblum's God, man. He's a god. He's so awesome.
He's really great in this movie. Kate Blanchett's really awesome in this movie too. They finally get a good villain. Somebody finally finds a good villain and a great actress to play her, and she gets lost for most of the movie.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
what's his name? Uh, uh the guy who played Scourge.
oh, right,
Um,
Keith Urban.
Keith Urban, right, from Lord of the Rings and
Is it?
Star Trek.
Wait, it's Carl. It's Carl Urban.
Carl
No,
Urban. Yeah,
Carl Urban.
not the country singer.
Wait, is it Carl Urban or Keith
I
Urban's
think
the
it's
singer?
I think Keith Urban's the singer. I think Carl
Okay, so it's
Urban's
Carl Urban is the
yeah,
actor.
Bones, essentially.
Bones or whatever. Yeah,
Star Trek.
the guy who played Judge Dredd.
Yeah, he seemed to be the only one in the movie that actually had a character arc.
Yeah,
But like in the beginning, he was serving Gila, and then toward the end, he's like, "Fuck this," and gives his life. Actually, he. That's the other thing. Gila is a fucking badass. Like I was scared every time she came on screen and she was throwing those knives and shit.
because she was cold in how she
Oh
did
my
shit.
god! But she had unlimited weaponry. It's like you were
Yeah,
out of your mind scared. You're like, how are they going to defeat this woman? She's just like, just tearing it up, you know. And but they diminish her, evilness by all those jokes, and that was that was disappointing to me. I thought, God, man, there's just if we could just tone down the jokes by like 30-40%, this movie would have been just fucking awesome. Because
yeah.
I wanted that emotion. Like every time I would get an inch of that emotion of like either scared or sad or anything. Even I would just on the precipice of it, somebody would come around and like tell a joke or do
Right.
something silly. A
Yep.
lot of silliness too. It wasn't just like them telling jokes like Rodney Dangerfield or something like that. It was just
The part that
silliness.
this is the part that bothered. This is the Thor Ragnarok's issue for me in a nutshell. They're in the middle of the battle, right? And Hulk or Bruce Banner realizes that if he turns into the Hulk one more time, he's gonna get stuck as the Hulk.
Hmm.
So I'm like, all right, well, he's gonna jump out of the plane and fucking change. It would be so awesome if he changed in midair and fucking tackled that wolf thing.
Hmm.
But he fucking but I predicted it when he realized he was gonna fucking do this. I'm like, he's not gonna change. He's gonna fall flat on his fucking ass on this ground, and everybody in this theater is gonna laugh.
Yep.
And lo and behold, there's the fucking joke right in the middle of the scene where they're about to die.
that
Everybody's about to die.
And that joke would have killed. It would have killed if they hadn't have 100 jokes right before that. Because
Yeah,
that
good
would have
point.
been
Yeah,
so fucking funny.
yep,
Um, in fact, there was a lot of times in the movie where I was like, "Oh my god, that would have been so funny if I didn't hear 6,000 jokes right before it." Because
well,
every
the again
jokes are
the best
predictable.
the again the dick joke scene where he's like it's in my brain now. I thought that was a really clever line, but Thor had already told me 40 jokes beforehand.
Yeah.
Even in the scene where he's like, I'm Thor, son of Odin, god of thunder. You will not touch my hair. And then it's Stan Lee, and then he whimpers down. He's like, please, kind sir, don't cut my hair. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, they need to kind of. I love Stan Lee, but man, those cameos are getting more and more ridiculous by the day.
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 kind of ruined that cameo.
I didn't. Some people love that cameo. I didn't like that cameo at all.
I liked the Guardians of the Galaxy one because he made him seem like the Watcher.
Right.
But then like it didn't. It kind of ruined Thor's one if you kind of know that he's
Well,
one of the
they
Watchers.
needed just ended his cameos right then and there. Then you're like, oh shit, he was the Watcher the whole time. Ah, it's awesome. Because now every time you see him, he's like, okay, he's still the Watcher? Is this still
Right.
happening? You know.
So let's see. Well, let's go over ratings because
All right.
I think the ratings we'll talk a little bit more during the ratings too. So let's go over diversity.
Not a lot of diversity. All white.
No, other than Valkyrie.
Yeah. I think it's pretty Casper. Do you think?
Yeah, Asgard is pretty Casper. There's Idris Elba in this. But it's not. No, you know what? All the main speaking roles, it's kind of a mix in there. So for me, I think I'm gonna go with Jan
You're gonna
Brady.
Jan Brady, maybe Jan Brady light.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree there.
So what's your movie rating since I gave the first
as far
impression?
as
What's your chainsaw?
Well, this is out of 5, right?
Yes.
I always forget. I'd say 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Okay.
It would have been higher if there was less jokes. It sounds so stupid to say that, but
It's not a comedy.
it's not. It's also, I think, on second and third viewings, I think I'll probably settle into this movie. But for the first viewing, I was really surprised on how much they went the other direction from tonal perspective. They went with a completely silly and funny tone when there was a lot of serious shit happening in this movie.
Yeah.
And so that it would have got a way higher ratings if they just would have toned down the humor, which again,
From us
really
anyway.
silly.
It
Yeah.
seems like everybody thoroughly enjoyed the break.
That's great. That's fine. We're about to get into
Um,
some serious shit. When we get into
right.
Infinity War, and Black Panther looks fairly serious as well.
Yeah.
So
So my rating, I'm gonna go with 3 lightsabers. The performances are really well done. The story, the overarching story of the movie is pretty good. I just like I've said the whole podcast, I really have a problem with how much they broke away from the seriousness of Thor. And it doesn't have, and I'm not saying it has to be like fucking The Dark Knight serious. I'm just saying like within the Marvel realm, Thor was a more serious character, and this is the most serious movie out of all the movies that he's been in,
mhm.
and it borderlines being a comedy first before action adventure.
Yeah,
Because think about that opening sequence where he's like sitting in the cage talking to a fucking skeleton. Like that entire sequence is a joke. Right there, you're getting a joke before he even does the spinning chain joke.
right.
So right away they set the tone that this is a comedy
No tension
more
in
than
this
anything.
movie. No tension at all in this movie.
No, because it doesn't let you breathe with it. So, but again, that's why I'm giving it 3 stars. It's it's still better than Batman v Superman. It's better than Suicide Squad. But I, I was disappointed because of how many jokes there were.
Yeah. It's really funny to say that, but it's true. It's like they actually had a good story and they just didn't let it develop. They didn't. It's like they
Do you like
didn't
it?
have
Do
faith
you
in
like
the
it better
story.
than this? Yeah, I don't know. No, I think they wanted to go a different way. I don't think they had faith in the story because it is a pretty good story. Do you like this movie better than the second Thor?
Um, that's really tough because here's the weird thing is that I remember Dark World more than I do this movie, and I just watched this movie like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
So I remember Dark. I haven't watched Dark World in about 2 years, and I remember more of that movie than I do this movie. Like I honestly was so flabbergasted watching this movie. I think there was just so much going on, so much jokes, so much stuff going on. that I had a hard time tonight remembering half of it. And so again, I'm gonna have to watch it a few more times. You know, when it comes out, I'm not gonna go pay to watch this movie again. I'll wait till it comes out on DVD or whatever. But I'll be honest with you, I remember the other two Thor movies, which I've watched way less than any of the other movies in the MCU. I remember those more. They had more to remember about them, but this one, again, I'm having a hard time remembering a lot of the stuff that happened. But I do like the story. This is one of the better stories in all the 18 movies. It really is, and one of the better, if not the best, villain that they've had so far.
Right.
And they kind of ruined it by making it too jokey.
Yeah,
And
well, they did fix they I think they fixed a few problems in the MCU timeline too.
mhm.
Like there's that one scene where Hela is going through the weapons vault and she throws down the Infinity Gauntlet and says it's a
The
fake.
fake, yeah. I was like, oh yeah,
So all
that's
right,
cool.
that fixes the first one because the first movie they just threw it in there as an
Well,
Easter
but
egg.
here's the other problem with that is that why was the Tesseract still there? Why was one of the
Oh,
Infinity
because
Stones was still there?
the Tesseract is still there because wait a minute.
Why?
Yeah, because remember in the first Avengers he takes it back to Asgard.
Right, but if but in the end of Avengers, Age of Ultron, would so it wasn't there the same time as the Gauntlet because Thanos
No.
grabbed the Gauntlet at the end of Ultron, so the Tesseract wasn't there.
No. That's not that gauntlet that you see at the end of Ultron. That's on Thanos' ship or whatever.
Oh, I
It's
thought.
not. It's not in the weapons vault.
Oh, I thought that scene was him. Like, if you need to do something, if you need something done right, you do it yourself. I thought he was
Yeah. No.
taking it out of Thor's vault.
No. Because then they would have addressed that in this
So he
movie.
had it the entire time, and that's the fake that's in Thor's.
Well, here's the thing: when they shot that scene in in Thor, they just threw it in there as an Easter egg. That was all it was. It
In
was
the,
just an Easter
in the
egg. It
first Thor.
hadn't
Okay.
in the first Thor, right? And then they took this opportunity in this movie to actually fix that because when you finally found out that it was going to be Thanos, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. If he's going to be Thanos and they're chasing Infinity Stones, why? How could the Infinity Gauntlet be on Asgard already? Because if you look online, that was everywhere when when you finally found out it was going to be Thanos.
Hmm.
So everybody was, all the fans were like, well, how are you going to explain that away? And then finally they explain because they all again the only reason that the Infinity Gauntlet is in Thor was just an Easter egg for fans.
Oh,
It
so
had nothing
so
to
they
do with
didn't.
the actual storyline.
So they didn't know they were going to do the Thanos
I
thing until
guess
later
not.
on.
I guess not because they would have never approved it. I don't think.
Yeah.
So then when fans saw it, they were like, "Well, what the fuck? It's already the Infinity Gauntlet's already completed. It's on Asgard." So they took this movie to fix that scene.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. Okay. Because I
So
just remember like when she walked by it said fake, I'm like, oh, perfect, because he already took it.
right, because it didn't make
And then they
sense.
walked
Right.
by the
Oh, for
Tesseract.
you, right.
Yeah. And then they walked by the Tesseract and I was like, well, wait a minute, why didn't he grab that too? So I was really confused. I was like, oh shit, I think I caught them in a they messed up, but no, okay. So
Yeah,
so Thanos had the real Infinity Gauntlet the entire time.
right,
Okay. I
right.
got you. So
So
I heard the Infinity War is going to be like a heist movie. That's what I read somewhere. The Russo brothers had said it was going to be like a
I
heist
think it would
movie.
work that way.
So in other words, Thanos is probably running around, and I think he's got minions too. I don't think he's the one actually grabbing all the Infinity Stones.
Well,
He's
that's
got
what I was thinking when Asgard blew up. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, there's an Infinity Stone over there.
right. Yeah. What
So
happened to it? Did they grab it, or does it floating around and shit with all the remnants?
unless no, Loki didn't even Loki was on that ship. So unless he grabbed it and like hit it somewhere on the ship,
Yeah. Oh,
it blew up with Asgard.
and that's the other thing. So we didn't talk about the cutscenes. One of them was a
Oh,
complete waste. It was just the Grandmaster. Um,
right, that was the end
yeah,
credits. The
where
second one.
it looked like the people were about to trounce him or whatever. Which reminded me of like didn't Grandmaster kind of remind you of Trump a little bit? Um, And then it just looked like the people were just gonna like, he made all these promises, right? Nothing happened, and then at the end, the people looked like they were about to kill him.
Right.
The other thing, so the other cutscene that was big, I didn't quite understand until again, after you watch the movie, you run to the internet, start looking at shit, and they explained, or someone explained, that the ship that Thor came across was the Sanctuary 2, which is Thanos' ship.
That's what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but then that kind of revealed that. I was like, okay,
And Ragnarok takes place before Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
yes,
So, the reason why I thought that was Thanos' ship, mainly because you see him, all fucked up in, is it the end of, no, there was no cutscene in
there's no
Guardians of the
cutscene.
Galaxy.
No, there wasn't.
Oh, you know why I thought that is because I saw leaked footage from the Comic-Con.
Oh, from the Infinity War trailer where it shows
Yep.
Thor smack up against the Guardian
Yeah,
ship.
that's where I remembered it. Yep.
Yeah, so that's probably how they segue. But Guardians 2 might have happened right around the same time as Asgard blowing up,
Yeah.
or it's
The end of the movie is probably the beginning of that scene.
Yes.
It might open up with Thor and the Guardians
Right.
in Infinity War.
That's what it kind of seems like to me.
But yeah, I mean that just goes. That's not a good ending for anybody on that ship.
No,
Not at all.
No.
I think the rumor is that they're going to clean a lot. They're going to clean a lot of house in the Infinity War movie.
It sounds like
Should be
it.
a few deaths.
Well, I mean, you got Thor lost an eye, so I'm like, well, I think he's fucking dead. But Captain America is signed on. Chris Evans is signed on through Avengers 4. So that's the other thing that kind of bugged me. I was like, why did they announce the cast of Avengers 4? So now, like, the Infinity War doesn't have as much tension in it if you already know who's going to make it.
I haven't paid attention to who's in it. I've stayed away from all of it.
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. But next movie up for the MCU is Black Panther, which I assume is going to take place right after Ultron or have some flashbacks or whatever it is. It won't.
Or after Civil War.
It's not going to segue into. After Civil War, right? It's not going to segue into Infinity War unless they. I mean,
It looks like it's its own story, which I'm okay with.
yeah, I'm okay with that too. I'm probably looking forward to that movie more than I looked forward to this movie, but I mean, this movie is what it is. It's in there now. It's unfortunate that it was so silly, but I think, like I said, over time I might like this movie a little bit more now that once I settle into it, because it was kind of a shock to the system. I was like, holy shit, why is this so fucking? Why are they trying to be so funny all the way through? It's like it's like a sitcom, and I didn't get it.
I mean, we've said on the podcast before, or I have, that I'm really worried about the improv parts.
Yeah.
Just not fitting the tone of who Thor is or what Thor is, and like I said, a lot of the jokes would have worked if you weren't hearing so many jokes from Thor or from everybody. But whatever. Next movie up for us is what? Justice League, I think.
Yeah, Justice League, and then So yeah, there's some good stuff coming up, and then of course Last Jedi, and then the end of the year, which I'm really interested now to find out how our lists have changed from the beginning of the year to the end. So
yeah,
be interesting. Anyway, well, looks like that's it for Thor Ragnarok. That was episode 107 of Chew on This, a Nerd United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Till next time, folks, chew on that.
Later.